So you're running business, you're an entrepreneur, you're taking a risk, you're growing, but you kind of feel like there's chaos. You don't have an exact pinpoint on cash flow. You don't have an exact pinpoint on your corporate structure. And you know you need to be investing, building retirement, but you also know your number one need in business is liquidity. So I'm going to give you a 3-step framework over the next couple minutes outlining exactly how you can do that. Now, this has come from about 10 years of making systems work, looking at people's pain, and ultimately developing what I call the GPS method: growth, protection, and succession. So I'm going to give it to you freely here. Deep dive, look at my screen. I'm going to be doing a little bit of drawing and explanation, and you're going to have the exact blueprint of what I would do if I were you as a business owner, maybe feeling those feelings. The best part is it's super, super easy. You just have to be able to commit, adopt a new way of looking at money, adopt a new corporate structure, and ultimately everything starts to feel like a tailwind. You know, like you go to an airline, you're going on a trip, you're going on a mastermind, you're going on family vacation, whatever. And you get on and the pilot does his announcement, welcome aboard the flight, blah, blah, blah. And he says, it looks like we're going to have a tailwind. We should arrive about 45 minutes to an hour early. This is what I'm talking about. So if you don't have a tailwind in your business, you have drag. You're trying to run a marathon with boots and jeans on, and this is going to solve it. So let's jump in. So take a look at my screen here. What we have here is the first step that every business owner needs to do. I don't care what industry, I don't care what amount of money, it's irrelevant. Let's go green because I like green. And so this is a cash flow exercise. And so what you have to understand is, as a founder, your personal burn rate affects your company. Your personal burn rate affects your cash flow. Your personal burn rate, if you can focus there, nail that down, pin it out, automate that, you are going to be doing amazing things. So this is what the average person is doing right now. They are receiving money into their checking account, okay? That money goes in, so we'll make money in, money goes into checking account. You send it down to, your operational account. So let's just say, this is money into your business, and then you send money to your checking account here. This is at, let's just say, Wells Fargo or wherever you bank. And then you have a savings account over here. And most people, what they do is they push money from checking and they come over here and put it into savings. And every month, this is kind of the process. Now, some things happen. Your wife wants something else to add. Maybe you want to add a payment, something happens, and so all of a sudden this savings drops. All of a sudden we have to go into the savings and push it back into the checking and rob the savings. And so, next month this happens, we go and push money back, and we kind of end up in this doom loop. And I see it time and time again. This is kind of the way the American system is structured. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look here. We'll zoom in a little bit, and we'll actually use this as an example. So what we want to be doing is saying, hey, if you're a high income earner, this is your paycheck. But if it's not, let's just say this is your business. Let's just say this is your rental property. Let's say, or this is saying, it's actually saying it's a money market. So we'll just leave it there. We'll say you have a passive income. Let's just say that is your little rental, your little Airbnb that you have, or, something. Maybe it's the commercial building from your company's lease. So what we're going to want to do at the top is push all this money into what we call the reservoir. Every amount of income ends up here. Okay. Now, this is an FDIC insured account. I think you make about 3% on it. Not really super important. It's more or less the automation in making the money flow every month consistently that you're after. Okay. So this is going down to reoccurring expenses. Okay. So we're going to automate every month. We're going to, in the app, say, hey, we need to live off of 10,000 bucks a month. That is our burn rate. That's where we can be happy. That's where we can have the things we want. We can travel. Our kids are happy. We're happy. We're going to live off of $120,000 a year, 10 grand a month, round numbers. So the question should be, if we're making, a greater amount of that, let's say we're making 12,000 a month, well, then why is it that we don't get to the end of the year and have $24,000 in our savings? What is going on? It's because there's not a system to control and automate and create a new normal. So all we're going to do is we're going to get $12,000 into our reservoir. We're going to save $2,000, so that's 20% of our income. And so when this 12,000 comes, we're going to save 20, which would be 2%. So we're going to distribute. This is now going to go into your Wells Fargo account or your Chase, or really what we call your living operational account. This is to pay for the kids' stuff. This is to pay for the mortgage, cars, fun, food, fashion. Okay. So by automating this, we're going to automate once or twice a month on the 1st and the 15th, or maybe the 1st, or maybe the end of the month for you. We're going to automate $10,000 to drop down. Now, what we're going to see is we're going to see a $2,000 savings month 1. Month 2, this is going to go to $4K. And every month after, we're pretty much going to be saving $2,000 a month. So in in one quarter, in 90 days, we're going to have $6,000 saved up in this reservoir. Now, sometimes that's $60,000 depending on your income. Does not matter if you're making 100 grand a month or 10 grand a month. It's irrelevant. And so now what we're going to do is every 90 days, we're going to have a structured meeting going over this reservoir and your personal cash flow. And our goal is to add more of these streams here. We're going to add another stream here. And this is going to be, I don't know, I know a gentleman who gives 12% returns on parking money. So you lend money to him and he lends it out for real estate fix and flippers. Hypothetically, let's say you did that. Let's just say you put a 100 grand there. You'd be making $12,000 a year. Now your reservoir is saving not $2,000 a month, it's saving $3K a month. And so now we have so every quarter now, we're going to see, what is that, 3 times, we're going to see 9,000 a month stack up. Remember, the numbers are irrelevant. They're individualized based on you and what you're after. But every year, we're going to be making multiple financial decisions. Every quarter, we're going to have 20-minute meetings. We're going to knock this out. And simply by using this system, the automatic saving system, you are going to grow your money right now. The numbers are saying around 23%. And so you and your family's baseline is 10 grand, 10K. And so what you have to think about in this fashion is this. Your baseline living standard, we are going to keep at $10,000. Like I said, it's dependent. But your baseline is going to be 10K every month. You're going to learn to live there. Some months you may have to go up into the reservoir and grab some money and send it down. Something crazy happened. That is okay. That's life. But we want to consistently hit our percentage of savings for our family. If you've read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, you have to pay yourself first. This is not having ice cream every night. This is going to the gym. This is not letting your eyes wander with women if you're married. It's delaying gratification. It's saying no so you can say yes to bigger things. And the best part is as you start to stack more of these, this number just keeps climbing. And this is how you build wealth now. This is how you get cash flow now. So you can go out to sushi now. Tonight's Friday. We're going to have an amazing pizza night at our house tonight. But as you scale your income, you do not scale your lifestyle whimsically. Most people, as they make more, they spend more. And so you totally get rid of that. Now, it's not to say, let's just say for hypothetical reasons, this lending opportunity you did to get 12%, and that brings in $1,000 a month. Well, if you and your spouse sit down and say, hey, we're cranking out more, we have more cash flow, let's increase our lifestyle by $300 a month. So now you got $1,000 coming in, and you don't want to reinvest all that. Maybe $10,000 a month is tight for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the app. We're going to adjust our money movement to now distribute $10,300. That is your new. So now every month you guys have an additional $300. Maybe that's a car payment. Maybe that's another, luxury gym membership. I don't know. So now we're going to be saving $700 a month of that 1,000 instead of the full 1,000 because you want to increase your lifestyle. But the key is you're increasing your lifestyle slower than your cash flow accumulation. Fast forward another year, you get a pay raise if you're a high income earner. Maybe your company is growing and you're taking bigger distributions into your reservoir. Now we scale how we want. We scale how we want to. We're going to scale at our pace and we're going to let our money grow faster than we do. Everybody fights lifestyle increase. It's real. It doesn't matter who you are, So this system right here, you guys, 23% more savings by people who use this. The average savings rate right now is about 4%. And that's because people don't have a system. They learn to live off of everything they make. And it's the world we live in. Okay. So I think we understand that. I think we're going to, this is what people absolutely love. It's your phone. You control it. You own it. You and your spouse can log in, see your success, see your cash flow being added. It's an amazing system. And this is 100%, what we want to do. So let me stop drawing here and slide over. So that's the first thing we do. Cash flow management. How are we as founders, how are we as leaders, high income earners, controlling what we make and being very responsible with what we make? How do we create that system? Now we have a system. Great. Cash flow seems to be in a good spot. We're making wise decisions. We're moving the needle. We're saving more. We're paying down debt. We're paying down college loans, credit cards. We're buying rentals, whatever the case. So now moving on. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to look at corporate structure. Now, when I say the next thing, we could probably do this, 2 or 3 weeks after we structure the cash flow. There's no time frame on this. And so if you're a business owner, the first thing we want to do is look at your current corporate structure in your last 3 years' tax returns. And that's going to tell us exactly what's going on, how much we're overpaying in tax, how much we have as far as liability. Do we need to put a rental property in trust? Do we need to put a portion of our business into trust? Do we need to protect our assets and protect our tax liability using trusts? So that's exactly what this system does. Maybe you need to develop a holding company in Wyoming or Nevada for anonymity. Maybe we need to go back the last 5 years and actually look at your current LLC and get all of your documents brought up to speed. Most people say, I have an LLC, if I get in a lawsuit, I'm protected. Only if your corporate veil is up to speed, documents are filed, and everything is legit, okay? Most people are not managing their LLCs to the actual standard that the state requires. Therefore, when they look at your LLC for a charging order or for a lawsuit, they're going to set the LLC aside and say, no, Mr. So-and-so, you guys are personally on the hook because you don't manage your LLC. So I'm not here to scare you, but the reality is most people do not manage their LLCs correctly. I see it all the time. And so we will actually do the 5-year look back, get everything in, redo the company the way we need to, make the anonymity happen, get the corporate office structured, get somebody answering the phones, a mailing address, so you can actually say, my corporate office is in Wyoming or Nevada, okay? Now, this is also going to address our legacy, our personal home that we currently live in. Most likely, we're going to sell it to the beneficial trust and allow the beneficial trust to own that asset. This allows you, as the owner of the company who's dealing with risk and potential lawsuits, to say, I do not own that house. Now, I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. I have them on my team. They do all of this. And I will just tell you this. Trusts are taxed 100% differently than you and I. They have way more flexibility with what they can do with income, what they do with their books, how they allocate income to principal or income beneficiaries. I don't want to get into the weeds with that. The accountants solve all that. I will say this though. We see tax reduction rates for doing this corporate structure. Sometimes I can see taxes reduced by as much as 80 to 90% simply by getting assets out of your name into much more tax favorable entities. So very powerful. This is not a strategy for everybody. Obviously, you need to qualify, have some pretty significant tax liabilities. But if you do, the attorneys and the accountants have amazing systems. This system was, pretty much put into place by the Rockefellers. They're the ones who structured this, made this happen to protect all of their assets. So Sam Walton did that. He's the owner of Walmart. And then most recently, if you want to have fun, go into ChatGPT and ask this question. Tell me exactly why the founder of Patagonia sold his company to trusts and foundations that he manages. Give me the tax benefits of that. You can have a heyday with that. You can read articles about that. I did a LinkedIn post on that. But the key is you want to control the assets in the trust. You don't want to own them. Ownership is way overrated. This is what your CPAs don't understand. Most attorneys don't understand. This is high-level estate planning, corporate level planning, and ultimately legacy planning for your beneficiaries, your kids, your grandkids. So in here, you can also private money lend at 10 to 15% returns and let that income take care of the mortgage of the current house you're in that you sell to the trust. Let that passive income pay for the trust's assets. That asset would be the house, vehicles, airplane, things of that nature. Now, there's also some crazy strategies you can do with intellectual property. You can sell as the founder of your company. You can develop your intellectual property. You can bill of sale it to your family trust. Now the family trust can actually create a contractual agreement to lease that IP back to the public-facing companies and collect a royalty every month. Dealing with income, super crazy, kind of getting into the weeds, but most people can track if you're this far into the video. So very cool things to do here as far as intellectual property, selling assets. If you have tons of equipment in your company like semis or forklifts or things that, there's x-ray machines if you're in the medical space, all that can be leased back to your company with IP at the same time. So this puts you in an amazing system to protect your assets, reduce your tax liability, and start building a legacy for your kids and your grandkids. Let's talk about the kids and using this. When kids are a beneficiary of a beneficial trust or family trust, the family trust can pay for things on behalf of the beneficiaries. And when it pays for them on behalf of the beneficiaries, it's not taxable to the beneficiaries. Now, if you cut a check out to the beneficiaries in their name, and they, are 25, 26 years old, and say, hey, this is for your college, cash the check and pay for your college, it's taxable to them. But if you go to the university and you actually pay the university directly with the trust funds, it's not taxable to the beneficiary. Like I said, the accountants deal with all of this. They categorize it correctly. They do the tax forms correctly to make sure everything's compliant and within the IRS tax code. I am not your accountant. I am simply the founder of our family office to help families get this going. Okay, I think we've covered everything here. Only thing, we do have an asset trust here on the screen. This asset trust could be simply to hold, 15 rental properties. It can hold, let's just say, a turboprop airplane or a jet. This asset trust can actually hold an airplane all by itself. This airplane can then be leased back to holding companies, other LLCs that you own. For that matter, it can lease the airplane as a rental to other businesses who need jet travel. So it can actually create an income stream versus being a liability. You have to title the aircraft correctly. You have to do everything correctly. And this year, actually, I think about 45 days ago, the FAA updated everything that has to do with trusts, entitling aircraft, and they lifted the ability to see who owns the aircraft if it's owned by trust. Very powerful. The elite use this. Wealthy families use it. Fortune 500 companies use, jets and everything. So getting into the weeds, but I think that should be good enough to understand step 2. Remember, cash flow planning up front. Everybody needs to do this. I don't care who you are. Second phase is look at your current corporate structure. What do you have going on? What are you doing? Where do we have risk? What are our assets? Are we selling our companies soon? Are we selling rental properties soon? This system will take care of all of those needs. Okay, step 3, third and final step. This is what everybody absolutely has to have. This is what is called a private banking vault. Now, before your ears hear something that you've been preconditioned to not like, I'm going to tell you that this strategy is insanely powerful, used by banks, Fortune 500 companies, and very, very, very wealthy families. So it's still scalable if your income is modest and you have assets and you have liquid cash. So don't worry about income amounts. This is a scalable system, just like the first thing we do with cash flow management. So look at this top thing here. What I want to discuss is this is the spending cycle of most people. These are your Dave Ramsey's. These are your I pay cash people. And, I'm not going to fault them because they are using cash. They are paying cash, but they're giving up the future opportunity cost of what that cash can do for them as far as growth, compound interest, something, and it's going away. And so what they do is they come here, they buy a $100,000 car cash, boom. They do it again, another 5 years later, they buy another car cash, boom. They send a kid to university cash, boom. So they never get their capital or their money growing with a tailwind. They're always having to start over, save more. They don't have massive amounts of money growing and compounding. Now, what I want to look down here is if you've heard this term, the infinite banking with whole life. You can go onto YouTube, type infinite banking. There's hundreds and hundreds of videos. I do not recommend or encourage anybody to universal life policies, index universal life policies. Stay away, buyer be warned. You don't need to have risk with your insurance contracts. Remember, most of the time when we structure these insurance contracts, all it is a place to hold money. So let's back up a little bit. Your company, it's doing great. It's got $500,000 in an operating account, the bank account that the company owns. It's already paid tax on it, and you're holding that money in your company. That company is up for litigation. It's up for dispute. If you're in lawsuit, all assets get frozen in lawsuit. We do not, and I repeat, we do not keep excess holdings in our companies, ever. They either need to get shifted to a holding company where they're separate, but more importantly, we can actually shift them into the private estate with private trusts. You shift that money over into an insurance contract, and this is what the insurance contract looks like. Now, year 1 and year 2, it's not super sexy. If you put, let's just say, $100,000 into a whole life insurance policy, you're probably only going to have access to about $85,000 of that out of the gate. So you're giving up the initial $15K, but you're also gaining a life insurance policy. You're gaining protection for your family. Year 2, you fund another $100,000 and you're giving up a little more. You can see that. But what you're going to see here is you're going to see this curve, this yield curve, start to go up. And so every 5 years now, we are going to start creating a tailwind. Now, about life insurance policies. A life insurance policy, when it's funded, let's say there's $100,000 in there that you have access to. They call that cash value life insurance. The cash value is what you have access to. When you borrow money against the insurance policy to use it, you've got an investment, you've got an airplane, you've got a bolt-on to your company that's going to increase profits. When you borrow the money from the life insurance policy to lend it to your company, the life insurance company, let's just say this line here, it's $100,000. You funded it over the 5 years or whatever the case. There's $100,000 here. And let's say you borrow out $50,000 for this equipment or whatever your investment is into your company. Most people would say, well, I have a life insurance policy that had $100,000 of cash value. I borrowed $50,000 to invest into my company. I only have $50,000 in the life insurance policy growing. wrong. When you borrow money from your life insurance policy, a multiple of the cash value grows at right now about a 4 to 6% return, tax-free in the full amount, while you have that money out put into your company as a loan or an investment or a capital contribution, however you want to do it. And so you're getting your money to grow at full value while you use it. And that's why when you look at this system over 30 years, you are going to see a founder of a company who does this get to retirement. They are going to have millions of dollars most likely if they did high premium financing, like put into the contracts. So don't want to be super confusing here, because life insurance is an interesting product. The main thing here is to make sure when you build a life insurance policy, I don't care if you do it with us or anyone else, you have to make sure when you build it, the savings portion is a large portion of the contract. So if you put $100,000 in, you want at least $70,000 to show up in liquidity. That is what a banking contract looks like. Most agents will do a 50%, so you only have half of the money you put in, or even worse, sometimes they'll do 100%, and you'll have no money for the first 3 years of the contract. And then once you do, it'll be like 15, 20 grand. Not good for liquidity, great for if you die. They're buying tons of life insurance with it. You don't want that. You can do that with convertible term insurance, which is kind of another subject, but I hope you're tracking. So really what you're going to want is convertible term insurance to show up for death benefit now for your family, very affordable. And you're going to want one of these banking policies for liquidity and use in your company so you can have a great runway to grow, weather storms, and have a great war chest. So once you do this, you add another layer of asset protection. Cash value life insurance, permanent life insurance in most states is left alone. Not only may this sit into a trust, but if it's in your personal name, and let's just say you're doing this without a trust, that asset in lawsuit is not up for grabs. If you're sending kids to college and they're trying to calculate your net worth based on your assets, they don't actually use the cash value against you as far as your assets. If you're trying to qualify for a mortgage loan, or you're trying to get a house or another property, the cash value that you have used, potentially that you lent to your company, that does not affect your debt to income ratio either. Very cool product, very misunderstood, requires an expert, buyer beware. Okay, you need to know about it, but you also need to know how to use it, how to structure it. Shoot me a DM. I will teach you exactly how to use it based on what you need for your company. So this is the structure. When I zoom out here, just a little quick recap. Cash flow from the top. You and your spouse and your children will all have this tied into their phone. Your kids will understand cash flow management at an early age. If you're older in life, your adult children need to have this cash flow structure in place. So when you give them $5-10 million of death benefit, they have a system to use that money, look at the money, make financial decisions to hopefully build cash flowing assets and not just burn through the principal that you give them. That's the first stage. Second stage, corporate structure eval. Not everybody qualifies for this. Just forewarned. Your tax liability needs to be probably greater than $50,000 a year in order to qualify for this. But this is a great place to start your private money lending, take care of your beneficiaries. Now, about beneficiaries, real quick, and since we're back here, if you have a parent who you're paying for, they can be a beneficiary of an irrevocable trust. You can pay for their needs as a beneficiary, not taxable to them. Obviously, you're going to talk to the attorneys and the accountants about this, how to structure this, keep it above board, clean. This system with the attorneys that I use has been audited 4 times out of probably over 10,000 trusts. And each one of those audits has resulted in what is called a no change letter. They were left alone. The system hummed along. Nobody was penalized, and everything was, kept as normal. So I had conversations actually yesterday with a gentleman who's a dentist. He pays a ton of money for his wife's parents to help them because they didn't put away a great nest egg. So we can do this for our parents. We can also do it for our children as trustees. Last but not least, structure your life insurance contract But more importantly, you need to start to view yourself for your family as the greatest asset for your family. It is not your company. It is not your gold holdings. It's not your crypto portfolio. All of that showed up because of you, because of the decisions you made. Therefore, you are the creator of all the assets. So those assets are only there because of your knowledge, your wisdom, and your strength. Let's insure you for your family. Make sure it's done appropriately, most effectively. I'm not saying to not go into the stock market. That's not what I'm saying. But in our life as entrepreneurs and business owners, solopreneurs, a certain portion of capital has to be off of the investment table, protected, growing, stable, and liquid for us to use right now. What I call the JG Wentworth. I want my money and I want it now. Well, that's how you do this. You yank it out of your company, you structure it so it grows, you use it to buy equipment, rinse and repeat. You're not going to lose out on opportunity costs if you stack in this fashion. So I think I've done a pretty good job of recapping the 3 steps. This is exactly what I would do if I didn't have a cash flow machine, if I didn't really understand my corporate structure, and I'm looking to build long-term, consistent, safe wealth that doesn't have principal risk. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It actually went a lot longer than I expected, but hopefully I wasn't just blabbing into the wind, and this has been extremely helpful for you. So if you like this content, grab the subscribe button, shoot me a DM. I am on LinkedIn. Find me. Would love to discuss your corporate structure, what you're doing, or if you need any help in any fashion. Have an amazing day. See you. Bye.